Hey guys, Box90 here with another EDH Commander deck tech. So this is a multiplayer casual, semi-casual build of Ghave Spores. It's technically my brother's deck, so he's here with me. So we're going to go through Ghave Spores. Ghave himself is awesome, but he's 2 a black, a green, and a white for a 0/0. Fungus Shaman, which is incredibly cool. Comes into the battlefield with 5/1/1 counters on it. Tap 1, colorless, remove a 1/1 counter from a creature you control, put a 1/1 Saproling into play. Tap 1, colorless, sack a creature, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So again, as you can see, he feeds into himself and he spawns off into other creatures, and of course allows you to feed off of other creatures and other 1/1 counters. So he's known for being a massive combo piece engine. In this build, it's not the main use of Ghave. He's mostly there in order to generate tokens, power-ups, feed off counters, and just make your army more and more threatening and more large. But there are a couple of infinite combos which we'll get to at the end of the video, in case you guys enjoy that sort of thing. So let's jump right into the deck. We'll start with the land. So first off, it's going to be mostly utility. I'll just mention, since only one of them, the command tower is the 1/3 color generator. It generates any color. Utility, we have Temple of False God, which is Soul Ring on a land. Reliquary Tower is for your card draw engines. It's not quite as necessary as many blue decks, but there's enough card draw and engine going here that it's useful to have. Thespian Stage, we have it instead of Vesuva. Why? What do you like about it better than Vesuva?
Because you can keep changing its land type, what it taps for, and you can always still tap it for a colorless.
Exactly. So Vesuva itself hits play tapped. It doesn't tap on its own for anything, and once you use it, it's done. So in multiplayer, where a lot of different lands pop up, being able to transform it on the fly is really useful. The Archangel is pretty obvious. It generates a colorless, but it also gives your creatures Death Touch and Lifelink, and with a lot of creatures, that's important. Grim Backwoods, 4 tap, sack a creature, draw a card. Usually not that powerful, not that awesome, but in this case, when you have a card synergy like with Grave Pact, where you're sacking a creature to draw a card, but then the sacked creature that you just sacked forces your opponent to sacrifice a creature. So of course you can use that as a synergy. And being able to draw a card of a token is nice, late game. Gavony Township boosts all your guys with counters, and of course with Ghave himself, it allows you to feed more 1/1 counters into Ghave and into other creatures. Let's get to our colors, our duels. So we shocks first. Overgrown Tomb, Temple Garden, Godless Shrine, Isolated Chapel, which is Innistrad, and Woodland Cemetery, which is Innistrad actually in this deck, and then Sunpetal. So these are those core duels, pretty much. Fetid Heath filters, so the black-white filter, Twilight Mire, which has amazingly gone up tremendously in value, awesome, and Wooded Bastion, and they all do the same sort of thing, filter your land colors. Caves of Koilos, which is a pain tap, and the pain taps are actually fairly budget, so if you're looking for duels, being able to just lose 1 life in EDH and multiplayer doesn't really matter at all, and it gives you that option. It also gives you the option of getting colorless, right? So that's really nice to have. Caves of Koilos, Llanowar Wastes, we're not using the 3rd one, which is Brushland, the white-green one, I think that's called Brushland. We're not using that because we don't need those colors. We just, by process of elimination, we haven't needed it. Tainted Wood kind of fills in and gives us, since we tend to use more black-green than white. Bloodstained Mire searches for swamp, which is any of your shock lands, and a swamp basic. Flooded Strand gets you for white. Again, you can't use the blue or the red, but that's irrelevant in this case. And Verdant Catacombs goes for 2 that you need. Obviously, you can run more of the fetches, but they're rather expensive, and since this deck is it's a semi-budget build, I wouldn't call it a fully budget build. And of course, these are not proxies, but they are from the Pro Tours, premium decks. I don't know what you call them exactly. Basics, we have 4 plains, 6 forests, and we have 2 swamps. Now let's get into the meat part of the deck. What is the actual deck itself? So for ramp, we have Birds of Paradise, because many decks wouldn't run Birds of Paradise as a ramp, but the 1-drop is solid and it's a creature. In this deck, there's lots of 1/1 power up, a 1/2, 2/3, etc. And it's a solid flyer, which is also useful. Soul Ring, classic ramp and multiplayer. Kodama's Reach, 2 basics, for 3, really nice. Running Cultivate also is not necessary. You can pick one or the other, they do the same thing. Ashnod's Altar is, of course, in a token deck. It's a massive generator of mana, but it also allows you to chain off a couple of combos. Darksteel Ingot, which is indestructible, which is nice against Wraths, and it also provides any color you need. Mirrari's Wake, which is stupid dumb and awesome and one of the best EDH cards ever. It's 3 green and white enchantment, creatures you control costs 1, and whenever you tap a land for mana, you add one that land could produce. Duels that could tap for, let's say a green and a white, now can produce 2 green or 2 white, or a green and a white, and it pluses up the creatures, which is even better. Then we have our card draw engines. We have Skull Clamp, which is pretty obvious when you're making lots of little 1/1s. You feed them into Skull Clamp. Enter the Meek, power 2 or less. Most creatures enter the battlefield with power 2 or less, especially if they're token. So you just feed off 1 to draw each time, and it's over and over again. Fecundity helps your opponents a little bit because it's whenever any creature goes into a grave from play, but since you're the one who'll have the most creatures dying, because you can even cycle tokens into Ghave. You know, you sack the creature, hits the graveyard, you draw a card, and then you can make another one with Ghave, sack, etc. over and over and over again. Chances are you're going to be benefiting the most from this, and it's a very budget card. Harmonize, you draw 3 cards. That's complicated. Collective Unconsciousness, you draw a card for each creature you control. You're going to have a lot of creatures, so by the time you can play it, turn, let's say 5, 6, and onward, you're going to be drawing a lot. Tutors, we have Sterling Grove, which protects enchantments, and it also allows you to tutor for 3 total, although you can tutor whenever you want, but it's a 3 total tutor to get an enchantment on top of your libraries. So then we have Sylvan Library. There's no top in this deck. Obviously top can go into any deck, but it's not exactly the most budget card, and Sylvan Library does a similar thing. It allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your library every turn, and you put back 2 and draw 1. And of course, if you need to, since it's a multiplayer build, you can pay 4 life for each additional card you want to draw and to put those into your hand. So it allows nice selection. Tutors, not so many, but a couple. We have Demonic Tutor, which is a staple, and Increasing Ambition. Increasing Ambition has the flashback, which is very nice, and it allows you to search up a combo piece if you need. In terms of removal, spot removal particularly, we have Scavenging Ooze, have things like Mirrari's Wake, and you can tap a whole bunch of green. You knock out a bunch of people's graveyards, make him stronger. He gets 1/1 counters, so you can feed those counters into Ghave or into other things. And of course you gain life. Then for other removal, we have Kazali Pride Mage, which gets rid of Artifact Enchantment, and Exalted doesn't really do much. That's kind of why it's here. Aura Shards is whenever a creature enters the battlefield you control, you may destroy an artifact or enchantment. Since it's a you may, of course, you can use lots of tokens to die and destroy their stuff. So having the option, it's a constant spot removal. Praetor's Grasp, search their deck for something, preferably something you can play. Things like Tops and Soul Rings are not unheard of, and then you can play that card. Or if you really need to, you can just take out one of the best cards in their deck, and then it's exiled forever and they never get it again. Very solid removal on EDH. Amazing, actually. It's done very well so far. Mercy Killing, it's an unusual card, but it forces sacrifice, and since it targets the creature, it acts as a spot removal against things that are indestructible, which is really nice. The only thing is that they get X/1/1 creatures, where X is the creature's power. Now, if you have a token in play that's a 9/9 from boosted up from all your various enchantments and or 1/1 counters, and then you do Mercy Killing on your own creature, you can also then get like 8 or 9, let's say 9/1/1 guys into play, and as they come into play, if you have things like Carthar's Crusade, then they get stronger, and then you can use the counters, and it chains from there. Pretty much you can use it against things that are very difficult to kill, and you can also use it on your own things later game to make your armies bigger. Beast Within destroys a permanent. Putrefied destroys an artifact or enchantment. Mortified destroys an arch creature or enchantment. Clear the Subdual, it's not exactly a removal, but it acts as taps down their artifacts or their creatures, so you know you will almost always have more guys than they will have, and in that case you always want to be the one who is able to control of the field. So being able to tap down their artifacts, prevent their combos, tap down their creatures so they can't attack or bother you. It's all really, really solid. And Clear the Subdual is fantastic in this sort of build. Wrath effects, we have Wrath of God. Great Pact acts as a Wrath because, again, it synergies with other cards in the deck, but the fact that whenever you lose a token, you force other players to sacrifice creatures, it makes it very difficult for them to bother you. And of course, it acts as a wrath effect. If you actually sack, let's say you have 3 mana, you sack 3 soak tokens into Ghave, they hit the graveyard, Grave Pact forces everyone to sacrifice 3 creatures. Exactly, it's all opponents. So everyone is forced to sacrifice except for yourself, and you control who sacrifices. It's awesome. Austere Command, Versatile Wrath, pretty obvious. Merciless Eviction, it allows exile of all of a type that you like. The fact you can exile all Planeswalkers, many other decks use more Planeswalkers than this deck. Chances are you'll be able to exile other Planeswalkers. And of course you can decide what to exile, preferably things you don't have but everyone else has. Wormcoil Engine, we're up to creature generation. So this is the one-shot generators. Wormcoil dies, you generate dudes, and he's big and scary. Then we have Captain of the Watch, generates 3 1/1 soldiers who are, again, bigger from Captain of the Watch herself, and then, of course, from other things you have. Verdaloth the Ancient, it's a kicker X, so if you have infinite colorless, you can generate infinite saprolings, but even if you don't, you can just put in as much mana as you want to make that many dudes, and it makes for all saprolings to tree folk, they get stronger. It's a very, very solid card. Avenger Zendikar, you have a bunch of lands in play, makes a lot of dudes, they're all 0/1s, but with landfall they all get 1/1 counters, which you can again feed into Ghave and other things. Hornet Queen makes 4 1/1 flying death touches, so that basically shuts down all Voltron ever. It's very, very difficult for Voltron to get through when Hornet Queen lands on the field. And of course, if you then they get reproduced with Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, or other boosters, they become quite scary indeed. Conqueror's Pledge makes a ton of guys. If you do the kicker, it makes even more guys. It's very, very solid. Decree of Justice is simply a scaled up, or scaled down, scaled up effect, like in Treat the Angels. The cycling allows you to draw a card if you need to, and make 1/1 soldiers instead of angels, which is a nice option if you realize you don't have as much mana as you need for Decree. And of course, Entreat the Angels, because if you miracle it, you get a gazillion guys, and you basically win the game. And yeah, even if you don't miracle it, it's EDH, so you'll have lots of mana, and you make guys. It's great. These are more stable, repeated generators. Rise the Redeemed, of course, is a really solid early drop, and makes guys, as well as the 6 ability is just unfairly good. The 2 guys, Guild Mage, allows you to populate, or make a 3/3 Centaur, so whatever you need, it's there. Populates the more effect, is solid utility. Parallel Lives, whenever you put a creature token into play, you get twice that many, so really good. Obviously, Doubling Season is supposed to be in here. We don't have it yet, so please, if someone has a Doubling Season they're not using, even if it's moderate, slight play, I don't care. Barring seriously heavy play, we can definitely use it. So, Parallel Lives is here too. Increasing Devotion allows flashbacks, so you can use it twice. Makes dudes. Grave Titan, every time he comes into play or attacks, he makes dudes, so really powerful. Ravaging Baloth, landfall, more and more guys. In terms of boosting up things, so we have the one-shots, we have like Triumph of the Hordes, it gives Infect, which means Infect plus Trample plus 1 billion guys, you basically crush everyone into the ground. It's an almost instant win. Kamal allows you to give 3/3 and Trample, which is Overrun, except he can do it over and over again. He's also a deterrent to Wrath, so if he's in play and people want a Wrath, for every green you have, they lose a land. So if they Wrath effect, then you turn all their lands into 1/1s, they all die, and then you are in major control of the field. True Conviction, double strike and lifelink for all tokens? I think so. Chroma's Memorial gives your tokens everything they ever want, ever. Craterhoof Behemoth, if he lands and you have 4 or 5 guys, you basically win the game, because they all become absurdly powerful. Then more stable boosters, we have Gaia's Anthem, which is 1/1, Glorious Anthem, which is 1/1, Marshall's Anthem, which is 1/1, and the multi-kicker allows you to get guys back for every 2 additional you play. So if you have some of your big creatures like Craterhoof, or you have Elish Norn or whatever, it allows you to return them to the battlefield for very cheap. Then Wiltleaf Liege, other green creatures 1/1, other white creatures 1/1. If they force you to discard your hand, or basically discard any card from your hand, if you can somehow discard it, you then put it into play for free. And 4/4/4/4 is solid.
Also, then you can use up all Gave's +1/+1 counters and he won't die.
Exactly. Any of these, having any of these, right? Exactly. Any boosters that are in play. Also, you can get Ghave down to 0 1/1 counters, and he'll still stay alive, which is really nice. Eldrazi Monument gives flying, indestructible, 1/1. Obviously, sacking a creature is not such a drawback, given that your creatures will be nigh invincible, and you'll have so many you'll probably be winning. Collective Blessing is obviously a very casual choice, but it gives your creatures 3/3, which often, again, means you're really, really going to be crushing the field. Elish Norn is huge token general in her own right. Whenever she's in play, it's almost like she's owning the board and she's running the deck, because when she's around, you're basically winning entirely. And she becomes the biggest threat in the field almost always when she lands. Mikaeus the Lunarch, he makes 1/1 counters on all your other creatures, which is a really nice Cathar effect, and being able to feed that into Ghave is great. Sigil Captain, whenever you make a 1/1 guy, you get 2 1/1 counters, so it feeds into Ghave, and it's not infinite, but it does allow you to feed a lot of counters into creatures, and all your tokens become better. Cathar's Crusade is one of the best cards in the deck. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield you control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Because it puts on each creature you control, you have a bunch of dudes out, you play more guys, they all get stronger, stronger, stronger over and over. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy card. So, Rootborn Defenses is a form of defense, ironically enough. It's 2 a white for an instant speed that allows you to populate, which again in token is super awesome. And it also gives your creatures indestructible until end of turn. So as an instant speed, unlike Ghost Away, which is a similar costed effect, if you did Ghost Away you would lose.
Like Dauntless Escort.
Right, it's like Dauntless Escort, but unlike Ghost Away, you don't lose all your tokens because they stay in the field. And they have to essentially exile all your creatures through Final Judgment, which I think is, besides for that and Merciless Eviction, I'm pretty sure there's only 2 that exile all creatures. So it prevents against 99% of wraths out there. And you come away with Populate, so it's even better. Then we have Mikaeus, who gives Undying to all your non-humans, which is pretty much everyone except for a couple of your generators. It gives Undying to. So if someone just does a general wrath because they're desperate, or what do you mean 1/1? It gives 1/1, right? It gives 1/1 and Undying, but they don't get a counter. They just have 1/1. But the fact that they have Undying, they get the counter when they come back, 1/1 counter, which can feed into things. Exactly.
And then they come back again.
Exactly, and you do this repeatedly, so he becomes a massive deterrent against any form of wrath, unless they get rid of him somehow first. And he's also a 5/5 Intimidate, which is solid. The 3 black actually is not a problem at all in this deck, so that's good too. Concordant Crossroads, now we're kind of into the weird general utility that just do stuff in this deck. Concordant Crossroads gives all creatures on the field haste. You know, you think it's a problem, but since you're the one who wants to be able to attack with a lot of creatures, chances are it's going to help you more than it'll help someone else. Nim Deathmantle saves Ghave, and it works in a combo with Wormcoil Engine, and it also gives Intimidate. Eternal Witness gets stuff back. Elspeth Tirel, who weirdly looks like Friday Night Magic, but it's definitely not Friday Night Magic. This is going to be an Elspeth Tirel. And of course, for her, she gives you a life gain option, which is solid. She also makes lots of guys for her -2, which is even better for token generation. And of course, her -5, which you can get off the second turn she's in play, allows you to get rid of pretty much everything except for your whole army, which means you basically win. Vraska the Unseen, and for her, she's mostly there because she's just a general versatile planeswalker in these colors.
Her -7 makes 3 tokens that can kill a player if they hit them.
Exactly, and if you think about it, if you have Doubling Season and or Parallel Lives in play, and or some way that...
She can do turn 1 like her final.
Riz the Redeemed.
She can do turn 1 and final.
Well, that's if you have Doubling Season, but that's any Planeswalker pretty much, for the most part. And the main point is that it makes lots and lots of... No, not really 1/1s. In this deck, they'll probably be a lot bigger assassin tokens. You give them trample. If they do any damage, you basically win, and so she becomes liquid toxin that destroys everyone around her. Her -3 is, you know, it's a versatile removal spell. Her +1, I found, is actually not as good as most people make it out to be in EDH, because rarely our creature is going to be the thing that kills her. It's usually going to be some sort of removal, and EDH is such versatile removal, it's easy to get rid of her that way. And Garruk makes a dude, makes lots of dudes, and is a massive card draw option, so very powerful. So let's go into the combos before we wrap up the deck. Okay, so the first combo that is in this deck, of course you can build a Ghave deck that is massive combo focus, but in this deck there's only 2 combos that I'm aware of. The first one is this one, Nimdeath Mantle plus Wormcoil Engine plus Ashnod's Altar. It gives infinite tokens and infinite mana. And how does it do this? Well, if you look at Nimdeath Mantle, if a non-token creature is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, you can pay 4 colorless. If you do, return that creature to the battlefield and attach it. And it's then attached and it doesn't cost the 4 equipped. So you sacrifice Wormcoil Engine to Ashnod's Altar, right? It generates 2 colorless. You get 2 3/3 tokens. You sacrifice one of those, and you have 4 mana and 1 token in play. The 4 mana allows you to attach Nimdeath Mantle to Wormcoil Engine and bring it back from the graveyard. He's now attached to Nimdeath Mantle. And you have 1 token extra. Repeat the cycle to generate infinite tokens. You can generate either Death Touch or Lifelink or both. It doesn't really matter.
You do both.
And if you decide that once you have infinite tokens, you can then decide to sack more tokens into Ashnod's Altar as much as you'd like, and you get infinite mana. So that's one combo. And the second combo is slightly more complicated because it does so much stuff. But if you have Cathar's Crusade in play with Ghave and Ashnod's Altar, you have access to potentially an infinite Ghave, an infinite colorless mana.
And infinite tokens.
Infinite tokens. Tokens that have infinite power and toughness. And infinite tokens in general on your field. How does this work? Well, if you have Ghave in play, you tap 1 colorless, you make a guy. Okay, the guy comes into play, and whenever creature enters the battlefield you control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So you put another 1/1 counter on Ghave. So the one you took off for the token is now replaced. Yeah. Right? Then you sack the token to Ashnod's Altar, it generates 2 colorless mana. You feed 1 of the colorless mana into, again, removing a 1/1 counter which you just replaced with Ghave. You remove the 1 counter, you make another token, and then you make another token. When each token hits play, it gives a 1/1 counter to the first token that comes into... Sorry, the first token that comes into play gives a 1/1 counter to Ghave. Then the second token comes into play, gives a 1/1 counter to the first token and Ghave. So then both of them have more counters. Ghave now has in excess 1/1 counter, as does the token. You can take off the 1/1 token from the Sapperling instead of from Ghave to feed more into Ghave. And this goes on, and it allows you to generate. Okay, I mean, that's pretty much as simple as I can explain it. So you need these 3 cards and 1 colorless mana to get started, and then it goes bonkers. And allows you to do pretty much anything you want. Whoa. Okay guys, so that is Ghave, Guru of Spores. So obviously, as you saw, those are the 2 combos in the deck, but they're not the center point of the deck. The deck's main goal is just to play, have fun, make lots of guys, tap down guys, play around with lots of effects and synergies, and Ghave himself is a mainstay of the deck. He's not just simply sitting around, and he's not there to come in for a combo win. He's there to have fun. So the deck is a lot of fun to play. I'll put the deck list in the description at some point, and otherwise let me know what you guys think about Ghave below in the comments section. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thanks for watching everyone. Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.